What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint post-show edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. Right now, we are going to talk about WWE Night of Champions 2025, which just went down. The post-show thing hasn't even started yet. I'm looking at that on the top of my screen and the other screen. Punk is still, celebrating with the crowd. Not celebrating. Yeah, he lost. But still adorning the crowd and doing that whole thing. Who am I? If you don't know, I am Tony Mango. I'm your host, as always. And as always, I'm going to be breaking down here what happened, what I think is going to happen in the future, my assessment of everything, pro, con, all that analysis. But I also want to know what you have to say. So if you are joining us live in the live chat thing, then chat it up there. Donate to the super chat thing if you want to get that goal. And if you want to make sure that I notice that your comment is being seen there. If you're listening to this after the fact, then leave a comment below anyway, just the same. I still want to know what you have to say. If you're listening outside of YouTube, then, of course, leave a comment on whatever platform it is, or head on over to smarkoutmoba.com, post something up on the Facebook page or Twitter or whatever it might be. There's lots of different ways for you to join in the discussion and all that, including the Discord server we have over there with the different channels that we can have on the pro wrestling side of things for, different companies and stuff. But we also have Fanboys Anonymous sections over there if you want to just chat it up about movies and all. Keep that in mind if you like Discord and you want to just basically do what we used to do on Facebook. We, not really having much of a presence on Facebook as much anymore in the group section there. Kind of hopped on over to Discord instead. So, take care of that on that front if you are interested. Also, keep in mind, if you are on YouTube, then make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe, ring that notification bell, click the share button to pass us around, and also double check that you have your email alert set up, because if you didn't get an email for this and you didn't know that we were going live, that is what that is for. And we go live for other things here and there. It's not just the post shows, but every post show, of course, is going to be live. So if you want to take part in any of the live discussions, that's the best way to get that email alert and make sure that you know exactly when I'm going live. Also helps us out on the monetary side of things if you join the YouTube channel membership, or if you are over on Patreon, patreon.com/smarkoutmoment, of course. And whether it's $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month for the Darkcast tier, or you're on the Pick a Poison tier, whatever it might be, all that stuff is greatly, greatly appreciated. It really helps keep the lights on for this podcast and helps continue to allow me time to do this as a side thing while I'm working on other stuff. And also, if you want to pick up merchandise, Redbubble and TeePublic is where you can pick that up. So, obviously keep all that stuff in mind as we get along here. I see that with Josh is in the chat. Better main event than I was expecting. And I agree. I disagree in some ways, but, we're going to get into the nitty gritty when it comes to that. So, again, breakdown of everything that happened here, good and bad, start from finish. Of course, the pre-show is 2 hours worth of nothing. It's just filling in the blank for no reason whatsoever. It's footage from old events. It's people breaking down the card and doing everything that I think that we do much better when it comes to our predictions rather than what they do on the panel. But, what it is. But, you skip 2 hours of the show and you start with the actual program itself. That began at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, at least as far as Eastern time zone is concerned. And that started off with the King of the Ring finale. That was Cody Rhodes against Randy Orton. They had a good match. It was around 19 and a half minutes or so, and they had a share of, their different finishers, people kicking out and everything. Randy Orton gets to a point of the match where he gets a little frustrated and he pulls out a steel chair, but uses that as a ruse to distract Charles Robinson. As the referee is focused on the steel chair, referee out of the mix means you can do a bunch of other things. Randy Orton starts undoing one of the turnbuckles, and that is what ultimately led to the downfall of him in this match, was because a little bit later on, that turned against him. Cody Rhodes is able to push him into it, and that leads to a crossroads, which eventually, of course, leads to the pinfall. So Cody Rhodes is your new King of the Ring. Good for him. He doesn't even put the crown on because, of course, I guess you just can't do that anymore, which is really stupid. And for a thing like King and Queen of the Ring, for Hunter to really, Hunter must like that for him to want to bring it back. Yet he doesn't want people to actually be King and Queen of the Ring, which is really weird. Why do you like the gimmick if you don't want the gimmick? You just want people to hold the crown. It's just, like this. It's just, I'm king. Put the crown on your head, for even if it's for one shot. Put the crown on your head. stupid. I still think that King and Queen of the Ring should be people that are actually King and Queen of the Ring going forward. You know, who am I to say that they shouldn't go with the thing that they created and they used for a bunch of different years, right? You know, if it was good for everybody else back at one point in time, it should be good for everybody here. So I do not anticipate that is going to happen at all for Cody Rhodes. If he couldn't even put the crown on this occasion, he's certainly not going to be, you know, King of the Ring. It's a little too snooty of a gimmick. In some ways, it works better for heels than it does for baby faces. So that's an issue when it comes to that. But at the same time, I still think that, you know, you should at least have, you know, them wear it once. Cody doesn't get as great of a reception here. Generally speaking, when it comes to talking about the Saudi Arabian audience, the rule of thumb is if they're an older performer, they're going to get cheered more. And I don't really put a whole lot of stock to, like, who cares? You know what I mean? It's Cody's still popular as all hell. It's not like he's going to be, like, looked down on by management and they're going to say, well, now we can't push him or something. So that was the opener. I thought it was arguably the best match of the entire night, and I enjoyed it. I'm glad that Cody won. I think that was the right call, and we might as well skip to some of the other parts of the end here and just tell you already he's going to fight John Cena. So I'm going to get more into the details of that, but, you know, John Cena retains. So second match of the night, or the afternoon, at least for me, street fight, Raquel Rodriguez and Rhea Ripley. And I think that they did another mistake here. I think that one of the issues that they had going into this was they had just done, on Monday Night Raw, Raquel is fighting with Rhea, and Roxanne comes out and helps Raquel put her through a table and, you know, win the fight. And I had said going into this, they have basically two options here. Either Roxanne also helps Raquel win this match, and it's just the exact same thing that happened, and they are, you know, they have no creativity whatsoever when it comes to that. They just replicated the same exact thing from Raw. Or worse off, Rhea Ripley wins here, and it negates the whole purpose of what happened on Monday Night Raw. They actually took that to an extra level, and they made it even worse for, you know, being kind of pointless. Rhea beats Raquel, even though Roxanne comes out and interferes, which means that Rhea Ripley on her own, after getting beaten up in an ODQ scenario, can beat both Raquel and Roxanne by herself. So if they plan on having Rhea and somebody fight the two of them for the women's tag team titles at Evolution or whatever it might be, then there's no reason whatsoever that anybody should lose a match with a tag team partner that they can win on their own. And I don't want to see Nikki Bella and Rhea Ripley as a tag team. I don't want to see Rhea necessarily, like, you know, beat the two of the other people as by herself and do some kind of thing like that. So I just don't see the point in this. Is it just to make Rhea look strong? In which case, why do you need her to look strong? And why do you need her to look strong at the expense of Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez? Roxanne, who you're trying to build up, and Raquel, who is holding the women's tag team championship right now. I don't see the purpose here. And I'm sure that if I were to talk directly to Triple H and say, what are you doing? I'm sure he would give me some kind of bullshit answer, and it wouldn't be anything that would really satisfy what I would say, because it would be, well, you know, we had to make her look strong on the one night, and the other night we didn't. And she looked weak on Raw. She lost. She didn't really look weak. It was a 2-on-1. Again, I just don't see the purpose of this, because if you're building to a tag team match, then Rhea and her tag team partner should just absolutely destroy those two. And if you're not, then why'd you do it to begin with? So, flaws on that front. I didn't really think the match was particularly all that impressive either. Rhea and Raquel are really good friends. I'm sure that they had some fun doing this. So I guess in their mind, like, that's good enough, and, you know, that is what it is. But it's not my favorite thing. I will say, though, that it served a little bit more of a purpose, depending on what they do for the future here, and was a little bit more entertaining in some ways than the match that followed it, which was Karrion Kross against Sami Zayn. I had said before going into that one too, that either Karrion Kross wins and it actually, you know, starts to give him a little bit of a push, or Sami Zayn wins and it's just further proof that Karrion Kross will not get any sustainable push in WWE. And In typical fashion, Sami Zayn wins here. So Karrion Kross, I mean, they were even saying it on the pre-show, like, congratulations on getting on a premium live event for the first time in a long time. They don't like this guy, and I don't know what it is about Karrion Kross that they pushed so heavily in NXT, and then he comes up to the main roster, and whether it's Vince or it's Triple H or it's both of them or whoever it is, people do not want to push this guy. And maybe Bruce Pritchard, for all we know, maybe he is like the one that's saying, I don't like this guy, or maybe it's Road Dogg, or I don't know. At least one person in power does not want Karrion Kross to get far. And the other people that are in power either agree or they are so, they careless about this that they're like, oh, sure, whatever, I don't really care. Nobody is fighting for this guy enough for him to actually accomplish anything. And if I'm Kross and my contract's coming up pretty soon, if WWE starts dangling a carrot in front of me and going, well, we really, really want you to stick around, and we really think, maybe you can even be fighting for the Intercontinental Championship soon. If I'm him, I'm going to go, no, I'm not re-signing, and I'm going to try to go to AEW, and I'm going to try to actually get a bit of a push there, because he's not getting it in WWE. The quote-unquote best case scenario that's going to come out of this is WWE doing what they've been doing with Karrion Kross for the past 2 years or so, which is, I lost, but I wanted to lose this whole time. It's dumb. It's bad storytelling. It goes absolutely nowhere. Kross has not won a single feud with anybody. All he's done is, after he lost to people, they turned heel, and then other people on the internet say, well, that's because he manipulated them and he turned them into a villain. So either Sami's turning or he's not. If he is turning, that's not a win for Karrion Kross. If he is not turning, that's even more of a loss. But he loses here to Sami Zayn regardless of what it is. And I think that it's a shame to set up Karrion Kross and perpetually not do anything with him, because nobody cares at this point. He is not somebody who can go into a match and anybody can really expect him to win. Now, even more so, I'm going to be shocked if Karrion Kross wins, whether it's on Raw or it's on a pay-per-view. If Kross wins a single televised match for the rest of this whole year, and it's not on main event against somebody like Akira Tozawa or Otis or Cruz del Toro or Joaquin Wilde or any of the people that are on Raw right now that are used as enhancement talent. They're better than enhancement talent, but let's be honest, that's what they are. Karrion Kross beating Dragon Lee on main event. Sure, it's technically a win, but it's not going to mean fuck all. And that's the only time we're going to see him win anything. I don't like this feud. I think that this went in the wrong direction. I think that if Kross is interested in salvaging his career at this point, he has to leave WWE. I know that Callum's not a big fan of him going to AEW, but I don't think that Kross is getting anywhere in WWE at least. And maybe it's going to TNA, which is weird because it's like a proxy WWE at this point. Maybe it's New Japan. Maybe he tours the Indies and does something like that. I don't know, but Kross in WWE, it's not working out. Yeah. So then we get to the United States Championship match, and this match ends up with Solo Sikoa winning the United States title over Jacob Fatu, but not on his own, of course. He's not going to be doing that, and not even just through interference from JC Mateo. Jeff Cobb, as big as he is, not enough to put down Jacob Fatu. Instead, we get two little surprises here. We get the return of Tonga Loa. Little side note, WWE doesn't even know how to spell his name, because whoever was posting that on Twitter decided to go with his New Japan one with a Tanga, Tanga Loa. It's not pronounced Tanga Loa, but you know what I mean. As opposed to the WWE variation, which is Tonga with an O. But he has returned. He's been out of action since the War Games match at Survivor Series 2024. So it's, quite a while now that we haven't seen him in action. And he is not even enough as well for Jacob Fatu to go down. Perpetually, Tonga Loa has been treated in WWE as the lowest rung of whatever this new bloodline-ish faction is. And that is clearly going to be the same case again here. So Instead, Hikuleo makes his debut, and they go out of their way, again, the same way that they did with the whole Mariah May turning into Blake Monroe thing, the same thing with Ricky Saints. You know, they didn't want to say Ricky Starks, so it's the whole, you know who that is. Look at that guy. We've all heard a lot about him. Oh, he has done a lot in New Japan. What a tall guy that guy is. They do not want to say his name. So he's not referred to as Hikuleo, but oddly enough, they already have the trademark for Talatanga. And they also have the trademark for Cesar Sikoa and a few other variations, I think, if I remember correctly, but those are the two that I really remember. So if they were going to call him Talatanga, they have the trademark already, and there would be no reason for them to have to call him something else. When it came to Ricky Saints, they hadn't had the trademark sorted out yet. I'm pretty sure the same when it comes to Blake Monroe. For them to not call him that means either two things. Number one, they're not calling him Talatanga, and they haven't sorted out the trademark yet, which is a little bit weird because why did you trademark Talatanga if you weren't going to use that for him? It was right around the same time that Hikuleo had been signed. So I guess they either thought differently, like we want to give him a different name and we don't want to go with Talatanga. And we still didn't have this planned enough for us to be able to get that trademark going, which also is a little bit weird because he's been doing dark matches and main event or whatever. So for the past 3-4 weeks that they didn't have that set up, that's a little weird. Or number two, they do plan on calling him Talatanga, and they either forgot that they could call him that with the trademark, or they did not translate that whatsoever to the commentary team, and they were told, do not call him Hikuleo, and were not told, call him Talatanga. And now they are in a position where they just flat out didn't say that. I mean, technically there might be a third option here, and this third option is even more ridiculous, which would be that they were told, do not call him anything because we some reason like this idea about not calling him something. Because then maybe people online start speculating and we get a little bit of buzz that way. Or maybe that is something that's like, it's more interesting if we don't call him by his name because then we can act like we were more surprised, as opposed to, you know who that is? That's Talatanga. We've already been told and tipped ahead of time that that's his name going forward. They did the whole Jeff Cobb, JC Mateo thing, though, a little bit differently, where they were saying, that's Jeff Cobb. So we've had 4 instances recently of people who come in, technically 5, 6, if you start counting some other people in NXT. Ethan Page comes in, and he's Ethan Page. Lexus King comes in, and he is not called Brian Pillman Jr. He gets the I'm Lexus King, and here's the reasoning why kind of treatment. Stephanie Vaquera, Julia, Zarya. Well, Vaquera and Julia are able to keep their names. Delta comes in and she's Zarya. So it's all over the place when they come to these kind of names. But I think if they were going to be calling him Hikuleo, he would have just been called Hikuleo here. Even by the Jeff Cobb thing, we've seen that they might not necessarily do that, but he's not Hikuleo if they didn't want to call him that. He might not be Talatanga if they didn't want to call him that. So I don't know what the hell this guy's going to be called. But anyway, Hikuleo / Talatanga / whatever the fuck they ended up deciding to call him. He is back. He is in this group now with a returning Tongaloa. Tamatonga still not here. He got injured after Tongaloa, so it's going to be a little bit more time for him to come back, I'm sure. And JC Mateo and Solo Sikoa, they all celebrate at the end. Fatu has lost the title. That sucks in some ways. I don't think he needs it, though. So I think he's going to be perfectly fine. And we've seen on Friday Night SmackDown that Damian Priest is moving on to a thing with Aleister Black and Carmelo Hayes and R-Truth and that kind of storyline. So I don't think that we're going to go directly into Damian Priest is going to be in this US title hunt again. But I think what we're going to get is probably a rematch. Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam. It might happen at Saturday night's main event instead. Maybe they have something else up their sleeves. But I think that's probably going to be something that they wait until SummerSlam for. Saturday night's main event wouldn't shock me at all if it's, say, Jimmy Uso and Jacob Fatu against Hikuleo / whatever he's going to be called, and Tongaloa, or Hikuleo and JC Mateo, or JC Mateo and Tongaloa, or whatever it might be. I don't know. But nevertheless, new United States champion crowned. Solo Sikoa finally gets a title on the main roster. Not opposed to it. We'll see where they go. Match itself, perfectly fine match. Jade Cargill beats Asuka to win the Queen of the Ring crown, which, again, of course, she does not bother to really put on and do the whole, royal scepter and all that whole thing. She also doesn't bother to actually pin Asuka 100%, and this is a botch, but this is interesting in a different way. So the match itself, there's nothing to talk about. They went for 8.5 minutes. It's half the amount of time, less than half the amount of time of what Cody and Randy did. We've talked before, Jade's not the best in the ring, and they wanted to keep that short for that reason, I'm sure. But on top of that, Randy Orton last year loses in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament in Saudi Arabia. This year, Randy Orton loses in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament in Saudi Arabia. Last year, Randy Orton got pinned by Gunther, and Orton's shoulder was up, and it was a blatant error and a botch and a mistake. It was not part of the feud. They turned that into a part of the feud. Well, Asuka gets bent backward by Jade in a fashion that her shoulder completely comes up, and it's blatantly obvious again. So the pinfall's counted, which means that just like Orton losing in Saudi at the King of the Ring finals last year, again, we've gotten another finale of the King and Queen of the Ring tournament in Saudi leads to a botched pinfall because somebody's shoulders is up. That's really strange for that to happen 2 years in a row. So maybe next year we're going to get either of these happen again. Maybe Randy Orton loses the finals again next year, and maybe somebody's shoulder goes up on a final pinfall. But I don't know if they're going to factor that into the storyline again. I think that the angle is, from the perspective of the camera, is enough that they're going to try to just pretend like that didn't happen. I don't think that Asuka is going to continue to feud with Jade Cargill also because they're on separate rosters, and I don't think that their story that they want to tell is that they need to keep feuding with each other going forward, because the story is, it's Naomi and they're going to do the whole thing there. So how they go about doing this, it all revolves around Naomi. At this point, I'm thinking Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill at SummerSlam. Naomi comes, she interrupts during the match. She wins the title by pinning Tiffany Stratton, and then that's how you get your whole Jade didn't win the title, but she's still going to feud with Naomi going forward. Either she beats Naomi after that, and then Bianca wins Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber or whatever, and then it's Bianca challenging Jade for the title at WrestleMania, or the scenario that I think is a little bit more likely of an option. Jade fights Tiffany at SummerSlam. Naomi cashes in during the match. Naomi wins the title. Jade and Naomi feud for a little bit afterward. Naomi continues to retain the title through shenanigans, hook or by crook, whatever it might be. And then eventually Bianca wins the title from Naomi. Jade wins either Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber, and Jade is the one challenging Bianca for the title. Tiffany's not going to be holding this championship by the end of the year. Naomi or Jade will beat her for that title. And I think by the time SummerSlam's over with, we have a new champion. Whether that's Jade or it's Naomi, it's one of those two. Then going forward, of course, it all depends. Obviously, if Jade wins the title from Tiffany, then Jade gets cashed in on. If it ends up being Naomi, then Naomi wins, then it's, whatever. But can't say I'm like super duper excited for that. I still think that Asuka could have been a really viable option here to just do Asuka versus Io. And they could still do that too. They could just have a feud going with the two of them, and they could just build to it naturally. But I think Empress of Tomorrow Asuka would have made some sense too. And it's all going to depend on what they plan on doing with the rest of the stuff going forward. Now, as much as I talk about Money in the Bank happening with Naomi, the setup for the main event for this whole thing, I did not anticipate would include Seth Rollins, but John Cena and CM Punk go into this. They're feuding, they're fighting each other, they're doing our whole shtick, and the referee gets taken out, as what has been happening quite a bit with John Cena. And then Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed and Paul Heyman, because we can't just say a goddamn stable name for these people, so I have to repeat everybody every single time. They come out. Seth is planning on cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase. And the referee is down, so it's all chaos. Cena and Punk are helping each other by proxy of not wanting Rollins to win the match, obviously. And then Sami Zayn and Penta come out, and they're feuding with Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed and whatever. The ultimate end of this whole thing is Cena starts acting more like a babyface. He doesn't use the championship to get himself disqualified. He has an embrace with CM Punk, and though he goes for a kick, and it's supposed to be that he's trying to kick Punk in the balls, Punk grabs his leg, picks him up, goes for the GTS. Rollins hits Punk with the Money in the Bank briefcase, goes for a stomp, and Cena is able to capitalize on that. So Cena gets the pin on Punk because of what Rollins did, not because of what he did, which is a little bit more of a heel tactic. So he is still heel and has a little bit of a moment of, hesitation here and there. So they're teasing that babyface thing. And Rollins does not have an official cash in, but he's pissed. He tried to screw over Punk, tried to win the title, didn't get an opportunity to do that. So here's where I think that they're going. And I think this is basically the same direction as what we had mentioned before, but now I think that's kind of like solidified it even more. Cody is fighting Cena at SummerSlam. We know that now. He won King of the Ring. That's what it is. I think Cody beats Cena at SummerSlam, and Cena officially turns babyface at that point. I think that he raises Cody's hand up, and it's just one of those, like, now I've seen the error of my ways type of things. I don't think that Rollins cashes in now at SummerSlam, because I think that now it's a little bit more likely that Naomi does. And I don't think that they're going to do both of them. I think that that's a little too obvious if they do that. So instead, I'm thinking Jade versus Tiffany happens at SummerSlam. Jade doesn't win because Naomi cashes in, beats Tiffany, and then it's, that kind of thing. Or she pins Jade, whatever it is, whatever they want to do. It's Naomi walks out after a cash in with the championship. Cody beats Cena. SummerSlam ends with Cena turning babyface, raising up Cody's hand, and that's the end of the thing. Maybe Rollins gets involved, but I don't think that he has an official cash in there either. And then I think down the line, we're looking at Rollins cashes in on Cody, whether that is, after War Games, because we're probably going to get War Games again, even though there's absolutely nothing that needs to be on that front, but it's probably going to be Rollins, Breaker, Reed, and one or two other people against Cody and Punk and, whoever it might be. I don't think that would be the cash in, because if Rollins is involved, why would he also cash in? But I could see, sometime around the end of the year is when Cody gets cashed in on by Rollins, and then they probably want to do Rollins versus Rhodes at WrestleMania. Wouldn't be what I would do, but I'm just giving my prediction. So as far as the quality of this whole thing, the Cena and Punk match, they've had better before. A lot of people, I'm sure it checks all the boxes. They had the run-ins and stuff, so that helps it quite a bit too. And the pay-per-view itself, from 1 o'clock until 4 o'clock, the matches, that kind of thing, not bad, not great. It is what it is. It's, a good match between Cody and Randy. Fine enough, I guess, matches between the Street Fight and Karrion Kross and Sami Zayn. An interesting thing with the Hikuleo and Tonga Lois thing and the title change, and then all the, story elements that come into the main event. So on paper, this comes across as a big success. Crowd's hot for it. Lots of pyro, lots of blah, blah, blah. I'm sure they made a butt ton of money. So they're going to look at this and they're going to say, oh my God, this is a win on every single front. Triple H is probably right now going, and I thought that Rhea and Raquel, I thought that they had a great match, and like that kind of thing. And, going forward, we need to figure out what we got for Saturday night's main event. We got to figure out what we got for Evolution. I don't know how they're planning on filling in the blanks for some of these things, but I guess we're going to find that out starting on Monday Night Raw. Very happy that Monday Night Raw is going to be a little bit earlier this week. I'm very happy that we're going back to 2 hours of SmackDown, because that third hour was fucking brutal. So we don't have to do that anymore. And I don't even have to watch NXT this week. So I'm kind of excited to the fact that I get a little bit of a break from WWE for this next couple of days or so. And that's not the goal that WWE wants. They want me to be like, oh my God, give me more. Just put it right into my veins. Of course I want to watch Main Event. And of course I want to watch Evolve. And of course I want to watch LFG. And of course I want to watch the post show that they're having instead of doing on my own. Fuck that. I've had my fill of WWE for the week. I'm going to watch some more other stuff. I'm going to try to watch Ironheart. I'm going to try to watch Squid Game. I am, I'm going to have a Stranger Things Broadway show tomorrow. I'm going to be way more interested in that. I'm going to be, what's the word? Not decompressing from WWE for the next few days. But this is fine enough pay-per-view. It's out of the way and it's done with. And I want to know what you have to say about this. So drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure you support Smark Out Moment on the website, on the podcast, whatever feeds that you're listening to. Hit the like button, whatever it might be like that. Keep in mind all the other things I mentioned before about the Marketplace stuff, Redbubble, TeePublic, Patreon, YouTube channel membership, the thanks button, the live chats. Check out that Discord server that I mentioned before as well. As far as the Fantasy League is concerned, I believe I won the predictions for this show, so I am going to take a look at my teams and all that. I've been losing track of potential trades and everything, but I am, interested in mucking around with that a little bit. And go on the link tree at amangotree.com, and you will see all the different accounts of mine that you can follow and sort out one way or another. Keep that in mind for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, anything along those lines. So it's going to do me in, though, for this pay-per-view point. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your comments, anything like that. And I will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out Moment. I am being counted out.